Chapter 207 has just changed the dynamics of the series for 3 major reasons. This is the kind of chapter that is part of the build-up for the end of the series, and that which will help this series to cement itself as one of the all-time greats. The chapter starts with us returning to Takemichi's time leap. Takemichi is running through the streets as we are shown that the time is now June 2008. And as Takemichi realises that he has leapt 10 years instead of 12 like every other time he has as he arrives in front of his high school. This is the first of the 3 major incidents in this chapter that I mentioned before. The fact that the rules of the time leap have changed is a major point. The implications that this has for the series are huge. Not only are there questions around how this has occurred, like did this happen because he shook somebody else's hand, with Mikey being the example this time, or is it because it is dictated by where he needs to be rather than who he's shaking the hands of? There are also implications on the rest of the series. Could he go back and save Baji, Emma, Izana, Kisaki, etc.? As Takemichi arrives at his locker in his high school, he is approached by his old middle school friends, Takuya, Akun, Yamagishi and Makoto, and as he is relieved to find out that they are still his friends in high school, he is pulled under Hakai's arm, who he fails to recognise due to his growth and hairstyle change. Although the scar is pretty obvious, so I guess it's just Takemichi being Takemichi at this point. After his relief, Takemichi then asks where is Chifuyu before running to find him and shouting his name as he runs through the door to where Chifuyu is. Chifuyu is reading manga and then comments on how loud Takemichi is being before Takemichi starts crying as he explains that he shook hands with Mikey and was sent back to the past once more. Chifuyu is then surprised and he asks if he is the future Takemichi again, which Takemichi then confirms. Chifuyu then asks why he returned, and Takemichi says he doesn't know whilst wiping his eyes before he gets one of the best looking spreads of Takemichi we have gotten in the series. One in which he says, "But I said that I will save him." Oof, that page just hits home considering everything we know of his actions and everything we know of his relationship with Mikey. This is really building up the arc to where it is heading and the direction for the remainder of the series, and that is a point we will come to shortly. But back to the chapter. We then move on to seeing a beaten guy with his head being stood on by Koko, who is now part of the Kanto Manjigan, before we then see Sanzu sitting next to another knocked out guy. Sanzu then comments on the view and says, "Look at our undefeatable boss go," before he then finishes his comment on how Mikey has literally taken down about 100 guys on his own in another epic doubles page spread which shows Mikey's back in his new gang uniform. Mikey then proceeds to look at his hand before commenting on how Takemichi has arrived with completely dead eyes. This is the second major incident of this chapter. Mikey's knowledge of Takemichi's arrival is a clear indication of something significant to come. I will be making a video on my theory for this soon, so do look out for that. The remainder of the chapter is then used to show us how everyone looks now that they've grown older, before we get to the final major point of the chapter, and the title of this chapter. The final page simply says, Tokyo Manji Revengers, Final Arc Begins. The chapter is also titled, The Final Act. This is something that is not entirely unexpected. I have never thought that Tokyo Revengers would be a 600 chapter series. The show just doesn't have that kind of feel to it. But there is still plenty to be explained in this final arc, and more than enough of the story to be handled that I don't see the series ending within the next year. I think Tokyo Revengers most likely still has at least 65 chapters remaining to close out this Mikey arc, and then I could see a significant epilogue that lasts a good few chapters to tie off how the future has changed before we then say goodbye to the series. And one of the best points about this is that there will never need to be a filler for the anime. The anime can continue to do an outstanding job without having to worry about pacing or filler or anything else that has plagued Big Shonen in the past. Tokyo Revengers is entering what could very well be the greatest arc in the series. An arc that could be one that defines Shonen and one which could elevate Tokyo Revengers to the very peak of the anime and manga world. This is truly an exciting time for Tokyo Revengers. And whilst the words final arc and final act can be quite daunting and upsetting to some, like I said, I really don't think we have to worry about this being a very quick ending. I think we're going to get the payoff for the series that we all deserve. And there we have my review of Tokyo Revengers 207. Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below about this video. And don't forget to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell. Peace to all.